This episode is brought to you in part by Canderel. Coming soon, a luxury master-planned condominium community rising at the corner of Bathurst and St. Clair. Situated directly on the subway and streetcar line, a monument of architecture and interior design, a timeless expression of glamour and grace. Forêt Forest Hill. Register today at live@forêt.ca. That's live@FORET.ca.
Hey everybody, we're the Menschwarmers, your bi-weekly-ish look at the world of Jews and sports. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
We're pretty good. Excited to bring you all the best of the news of the Jews and hustle recaps. How have the last few weeks of your life been? I'm doing great.
Good. Things are good. Everything's good. Everything's good. Little golf here and there. Children illnesses, as I know you've been acquainted with as well.
I want to open tonight's show with sort of a wild, quick story. From a Jewish geography story that Copen, I think it's a nice light, brief intro here. My family who from New York was visiting this past weekend. My father is from New York. His sister and her family came and visited. Right now the year is the year of our Lord 2022.
Well, not our Lord's year.
Yeah, the year of one's Lord, of the Lord 2022. And my father has spent his whole life as a Met fan, has been watching his sister as well. They've watched Met games their whole lives. They went to Old Shea Stadium, took the bus. And in June of 2022, literally last weekend, did they find out, because of a chat with my uncle, my father's brother-in-law, that the very Jewish Gary Cohen, who has been the television commentator for the Mets for the last 30 years, was, the same Gary Cohen that they grew up with in Parkway Village in Queens. They didn't know.
That's really funny.
They watch Mets games
really
all
funny,
the time, and they didn't know.
To be fair, the number of Gary Cohens who have grown up on Long Island in the last 50 years,
that's what
it's
my
more
dad
than
said.
one.
My dad said is that every third kid was named Gary Cohen, so he had always just assumed it was a different Gary Cohen. Like he knew multiple Garys Cohen.
Yeah. That's very funny, though. Maybe they'll reconnect in some way. I mean, I'm sure if you're the Mets announcer, you have lots of people reaching out to you from your childhood asking for tickets or favors of some sort.
If you're listening, 2 comments. 1, please ask Keith why he doesn't return my emails. And 2, I think my dad would like to reconnect.
Sure. So on to our biggest piece of news that's been going on in the Jewish sports world the last few days, which is that Sue Bird has announced her retirement. At the end of this season, we're about halfway through the WNBA season, and she's going to retire.
She's bird had a 21-year
career. Oh, that's good. Or has landed. I don't know. Whichever one is. Yeah, flown. That makes sense.
Yeah.
21-year career with the Seattle Storm. 12-time All-Star, 5-time gold medalist. Really legendary career. We were joined at the later in the show by Larry Stone, a columnist for the Seattle Times, who's written about Sue Bird extensively for his newspaper, and most recently a nice send-off. So we'll save our chat with Larry for the Sue Bird talk. But really monumental thing, Gabe. I think this is she was the runner-up in our Gaja poll. She's the GOAT. She's, I think, inarguably the greatest Jewish female athlete of all time. And really just a role model to Jews, to young women growing up, to
any basketball
in the LGBT
fan.
community, I think, as well. To basketball fan, she's been a real representation forward person. She was involved with, I think, with the Storm players coming out in support of Raphael Warnock 2 years ago and helping getting him elected to the Senate. She's been an outspoken person. Her partner's Megan Rapinoe of the U.S. women's national team. She's a very public figure. She is going to be in our lives for a long time, and I guess we wish her well with everything that's going to follow for the rest of her life.
Absolutely. The eye of the storm, as we'd like to call her, the time has passed, and obviously we're extremely proud of Sue Bird, both her accomplishments domestically and internationally, as well as interpersonally, and we wish her the best.
Yeah. In sadder news, unfortunately, we want to talk about the death of Lenny Rosenbluth, who died just this past June 18th at the age of 89. I think for us, for our generation, it was a bit of doing some research and learning about him. But for basketball fans of an older generation, he was the guy. When college basketball was the biggest game in town, he was a huge part of it. He was part of the University of North Carolina team that won the national championship in 1957. And again, I'm not a really part of that world, but from reading the tributes and everything that people from the UNC team were talking about, he was the guy who got that program off the map. So. Had a very short career in the NBA, but considered, seems like really lovely man, really beloved by Chapel Hill and everyone in that area. It's unfortunate that he's passed away, but really, an all-time great in the college game.
It feels like there was a real heyday of Mensches in college basketball. You've got your obviously, you got your Adolph Rupps, who, on the other side, that guy really seems like a jerk, regardless of being named Adolf. But, then on the other side, you have your, John Woodens and Rosenbluths and sort of salt of the earth, I'm here to raise young men type Mensches. Mm-hmm. So it's always interesting to look back on the lives and careers of them. Yeah.
I thought one interesting fact about him was that in 1957, he won I think it was the Helms Trophy at the time as the college basketball player of the year, and the person he won it over, a young basketball player by the name of Wilt Chamberlain. Came in second. So, yeah, Kansas's Wilt Chamberlain. I think the Tar Heels went on to beat the Jayhawks in the finals that year. Sort of interesting to see the paths cross and two guys at the peak of their game in college, and one goes on to have what was certainly at the time the greatest basketball career ever in the NBA, and the other one, didn't really make it as a pro, and a quieter life,
but
certainly compared to Wilt Chamberlain.
Still is being mentioned
he played with the greats
on ethnic sports podcasts 60 years later after his greatest, or 70 years after his greatest accomplishments.
Yeah. So Lenny Rosenbluth, may his memory be a blessing to all Tar Heel fans. So, Gabe wanted to talk about as well. We went to the RBC Canadian Open together.
We did.
That's now about 10 days ago. That was a lot of fun.
It was a blast. I spent a day following around Jewish golfers David Lipsky and Jonathan Kay. David Lipsky sort of has graduated to the PGA Tour from a couple of years on smaller tours. He's there now, sort of a big and friendly-looking right-handed swinger. Jonathan Kay is sort of older, a thin, wiry fellow who made it as an alternate, sort of a long-term veteran. But great follows. We'll be following Lipsky's career for the next little while. Would love to have him on the show one day, so stay tuned. I think we
unfortunately unfortunately Lipsky missed the cut by missing a 2-foot putt, which could have been I don't really want to play this weekend kind of thing, or who knows, maybe he just got the yips at the moment. Unfortunately, Max Homa and Daniel Berger, the two higher-ranked Jewish golfers, weren't in attendance. They weren't at the Live Open, though, which is good. Because,
that's good.
I feel like I would have very conflicted feelings about a Jewish golfer taking Saudi money
to
go play on that ramshackle tour.
It's like when Bill Goldberg goes to wrestle in Saudi Arabia.
That doesn't fill me with pride.
No,
I would say.
I agree. Absolutely not.
Homa did make the cut at the U.S. Open, but finished tied for 47th.
Did Berger play in the U.S. Open?
He did. He missed the cut.
Okay.
He didn't have a good weekend. Yeah. Or good Thursday. Or a good Friday. Sorry, he had a good Thursday and then a bad Friday. But we'll see how they do going into the British Open. And more guys are defecting to the Live Tour. So I don't think there's any Jews on the Live Tour yet, but I guess we'll find if there are any, we can talk about that and consider it. It seems like some Jewish golf writers have been sort of involved in the tussle over it. We're assuming Alan Shipnuck is Jewish, and he's sort of the progenitor of some of this turmoil in the first place, because he's wrote a biography about Phil Mickelson when Phil was gave that sort of ridiculous quote about the Saudis murdering Jamal Khashoggi.
Yes.
And
I think he called them bad motherfuckers.
So, I think Shipnuck is Jewish. It seems like he was kicked out of the Live Tour press conference, or not the press conference, but he was kicked out of the going to watch.
I don't think him being kicked out
Greg Norman directly
is because he's Jewish or not. Let's make that clear. Maybe
no,
of
course
I
not.
don't know.
Of course not. No, I'm not suggesting that at all. But it is interesting to see this multiple dynamics, I guess, on this Saudi tour, and I don't know. Everyone should be opposed to it, regardless of religion or nationality. I guess I don't know. It's very I think it's very morally bankrupt as an idea. Just the sports washing of Saudi misdeeds by throwing money at professional golfers. But
absolutely, there's a couple of. I mean, there's. We've been asked before if Charles Schwartzel is Jewish on the LIV Tour. The first winner, he is not. South African golfer on the LIV Tour, Ian Snyman. I think we could probably call a borderline Mike Jacobs All-Star, and he's a bucket hat guy, so I'm all
sure.
in favor of that. But he is also, from what I can tell, not Jewish. But yeah, not a lot of Jews on the Saudi Golf Tour. Probably involved in
Gabe, in terms of local sporting events, we also had the Montreal Grand Prix last weekend.
Yep.
What's it? Is it called the Montreal Grand Prix? Or
It's the Canadian Grand Prix that takes place in Montreal. It is Jewish F1 driver Lance Stroll's home race back in Canada.
Okay.
He actually finished. He finished in the points. He finished in 10th, which is sort of the best. I think it's his best finish of the season. That's the top half of the grid. He finished above his teammate Sebastian Vettel, but he started all the way in 17th. So despite starting in 17th, he moved his way all the way up to 10th, so he gained 7 places. So it was actually quite a good race from young Mr. Strulovich there, who goes by Lance Stroll. So it's quite exciting. In other sort of recent news, speaking of Canadian, the NHL awards were given out tonight. No repeat for Jewish defender Adam Fox, unfortunately. But Mike Jacobs All-Star and very Jewish-sounding holiday man Moritz Seider, not Jewish, he's Swiss, Seider, has won the Rookie of the Year award. So there's some local Jewish sports news for you beyond.
There is a hockey thing I wanted to talk to you about. So two guys that we've been following, Adam Fox of the Rangers and Zach Hyman of the Oilers, were both in the semifinals, and neither of their teams made it to the finals. The Avalanche, who beat the Oilers, have a player on their team, Andrei Burakovsky, who may or may not be Jewish, and it is conflicted about whether or not he is. So here's the sort of primary source material that we're
sort of bringing back the old. If you're an OG follower of the past, of this podcast, we had an old little segment called Jew or Not Jew, which we haven't been for a while, but we're going back to Jew or Not Jew here.
Right. So his dad is named Robert Burakovsky. He's a Swedish guy. He has been reported as Jewish. He played in the NHL. So I assume people sort of did some research on that or knew about it at the time. But if you go to the Wikipedia entry about why he's Jewish, I mean, it's sourced, but it sources to a book, Day by Day in Jewish Sports History, by Bob Wexler. And all there is in there is just a list that says Robert Burakovsky Jewish. So that's fine. That's a source in a book. I guess that's true-ish as far as we know. But what we do have after that is a tweet from when Andrei Burakovsky got drafted back in 2015. You can't see the original tweet, but it's a direct tweet from Andrei Burakovsky, and he writes, it's a bit difficult because it seems there's some misspellings, but he wrote, "No one of new parents are Jewish, so it's not true." I think he meant to write, "Not one of my parents are Jewish, so it's not true." Right. So this is, from the proverbial horse's mouth. He says that he's not Jewish. Okay. I mean, I think, we've talked about this before, that if someone says, "I'm not Jewish," then generally speaking, we sort of take them at their word. I guess I think so. That's sort of our settled opinion on this.
I think I want to sort of go down on these primary sources a little bit too. If you look at Andrei Burakovsky's his own Wikipedia page, it is also sort of looked at looked at. If you go to the source on the thing that says he is a Jewish player or whatever, it's a single Tampa Bay Jewish
Exactly.
Times article that lists him as a Jewish player. But if you go a little deeper, there's actually a little bit more. Sorry, you go on.
Well, maybe we have the same point, but that I have a note here, is in a tweet as well, from Jewish Sports Review, who does a sort of periodical about Jews and sports. And they wrote, when they first joined the NHL, we phoned Robert and then Andrei Burakovsky. Both said they were Jewish. We didn't call the Zeta Benjamin Burakovsky. Then reports came out that Andrei was denying he or his family were Jewish. I want to hear that from him, and we are still working on it. So that feels like, I don't know, a more definitive answer. They actually called someone and found out. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little weird for someone to tweet out that they're not Jewish if they were. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
it's totally
he's
weird.
made it pretty clear.
And the belief amongst sort of like hockey knowers that he is Jewish. You can find, history from beat reporters of the Capitals, of beat reporters from other team hockey historians who do believe is Jewish. But there's actually really interesting, I guess it's about 5 years ago now, there's an interesting article from the New Jersey Jewish News that sort of actually debates and quotes that specific no one of new parents are Jewish, so it's not true. Specifically debates whether or not you would consider a Jewish athlete Jewish if sort of the history says maybe, but no. And the New Jersey Jewish News sort of went into this, got a quote from the Jewish Sports Review that says we verify and fact check that he is Jewish. They stand by their decision. However, they also claim that they're not a religious journal. Jewish Sports Review,
right.
They're Jewish if they can find a Jewish sort of connection. So, if I, going by like the not strictest of rules, if maybe Robert Burakovsky was not Jewish, but Benjamin was, we could say Benjamin was Jewish, but Robert did not grow up Jewish, so he has a Jewish grandparent, but it's not particularly, halakhically tight.
Yeah. All that to say, he did score the overtime winner in Game 1. He scored again in Game 2 where they won 7-0. So, whatever. Let's claim him for the time being. And
you're making the decision
until proven otherwise. I think we can sort of claim him as having some Jewish descent without being a Jewish athlete per se. And if it's breaking a tie on who you're going to cheer for in the Stanley Cup Finals and you don't have a rooting interest otherwise, might as well cheer for the Avalanche. Why not?
Absolutely. I think there's like an even deeper sort of level here, which is, you can claim he's Jewish until he does something bad. Like, he's Jewish when he wins, but like maybe if he gets into some sort of scandal, we can say, oh, he's not actually Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, the only other rooting interest is the owners. The owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Jeffrey Vinnick, is Jewish. I think that's been a sort of something we've talked about in the past. Obviously, they've won recently, and the owner of the Colorado Avalanche is someone in the Cranky family who are often misreported as being Jewish, but are not. So
also, once
you can
again,
root
not
based on
Jewish.
that. If anyone's rooting for for a certain sports team because of the owners, I guess I just got to say, like, shame on you. I don't know. We haven't talked about like. The guys who own the Warriors are Jews. Congrats to Joe Lacob, I guess, for winning another championship. But like, I'm much more interested in Steph Curry's Hebrew language sweatshirts and tattoos than
totally
whatever noted blackjack player Joe Lacob and whatever he's doing. I mean, I'm sure he does good as well. Like, I'm sure he's donating to local Jewish causes. Good for him. But it's not a reason why I would root for a team personally. We got a culture corner segment.
Oh, a culture corner
because
segment.
there was a release recently of a Jewish sports movie. I'm talking, of course, about the Adam Sandler Netflix joint Hustle.
Oh, Hustle, of course.
And Gabe, I'm going to ask our producer Michael to join us because Michael has some Hustle takes.
That is absolutely shocking.
Hey, everybody.
Shocking, not that Michael, has takes, but that Michael wants to join this podcast.
Devout readers of the Canadian Jewish News print will recognize my name from maybe the 2016 to 2019 or 2020 when it collapsed as having a monthly arts column on Jewish TV and movies. So I spent a lot of time looking for Jewish themes in where there are very few.
Right.
And I felt I could apply that tonight. Did you guys see the movie?
I have.
I have not.
Gabe,
So I'm
has not.
going in blind here. I would love it if I could keep up as religiously with the releases of The Sandman as I once did. However, I am not. I'm not. Kids and my jobs have sort of made that into a difficulty.
Right. He says as if we don't all have kids around the same age.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but
James,
some of us have priorities that don't involve Adam Sandler. I know you don't, but some of us.
James, what did you think of it?
I thought it was good. I mean, it's a bit formulaic. I thought Sandler was good. He was funny. He does I would say when he does 2/3 of the Sandler stuff, it works really well. When he goes 100% in, it's too much. So this one had his sort of nebbishiness and sports and stuff like that. But at no point did he pull out a guitar and sing. If he had done that, that's a little too full Sandler. But I thought it was a very good performance. I mean, it's a pretty dramatic role for him. He's making jokes here and there, but it's probably his most dramatic role since Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
I thought he was good. I thought most of the NBA players in it were good. I think LeBron James produced it, so between him and Sandler, it was not hard getting Jose Calderon or Kenny Smith to show up for a while and have some fun.
I felt like this suffered from what Marvel movies have done to films, which is that movies of a certain kind now exist in order to make the audience jump up and go, "Oh, look, it's that guy! It's I know who that is."
But is anyone saying
the
that
MCU
about
of the
Hernan
NBA.
Gomez?
I think people are saying about Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, Dirk appears only via video chat
Kyle Lowry, who's literally there. They cut the Kyle Lowry, I guess, just because he's from Philadelphia, and he literally just goes, "Hey," and then cuts away. He's in literally 10 seconds of the film.
It was fun though. I thought it was a fun movie. It's a little formulaic as sports movies tend to be. I mean, there's an underdog, and you can imagine how he does. He doesn't fail. He doesn't fall flat on his face towards the end. And we should shout out also Jewish sports movie Hall of Famer Ben Foster is in it as the sort of evil Sixers owner. Obviously, we recently profiled him in the Survivor.
Does he play a Jew?
Also in that movie, he played. I don't think so.
I don't
His
think
dad is played by Robert Duvall. So
right. Robert Duvall is real Christian old guard. But I wanted to ask Michael, what makes this a Jewish story?
Stan Sugarman, the character played by Adam Sandler, is he canonically Jewish? Did you get any hints? I think we've had this. I think he obviously is, but I don't know if it's explicit.
I think we've had this debate before, which is that unless explicitly stated otherwise, every character Adam Sandler plays is Jewish.
Especially if his name is Stanley Sugarman.
Yeah, and I think there's a fair amount of Judaica in the house as well. I know the director's Jewish and talked about sort of modeling it after his own household. His wife's played by Queen Latifah. I think the director said he has a similarly mixed household. And anyway, so I think it's clear that he is Jewish.
So
I think also there's a scene where Juancho Hernan Gomez's character orders a $40 room service steak and only takes one bite out of it. And then in the next scene, you see Adam Sandler eating it in the car. He took the steak from the hotel room and is eating it because he doesn't want to waste the money.
He's holding it from the bone, like a chicken leg or something.
Right.
So pretty Jewish move there, I would say.
So I think so. So you have a guy named Stan Sugarman. He's a very well-connected guy. Yeah. Right. He's very businesslike. He's kind of transactional. He's very nomadic. He's on the road constantly. Right, traveling all across Europe and beyond.
And is he in some sort of a caravan?
As a scout, he's the modern wandering Jew.
He's very valuable, but only in his place. And in fact, when Ben Foster, takes control of the Sixers, this isn't really a spoiler. It happens in the first, 20 minutes of the movie. But when Ben Foster takes control of the Sixers, it's very clear that Stanley Sugarman is a valuable guy. He likes him. He wants him on his side, but he wants him to know his place, to not shoot too high. And as soon as things start to go a little sour, start to go a little sideways, who does Ben Foster scapegoat? And have you looked at Ben Foster's haircut in the movie?
It is a bit. It's giving.
What do they call it? The fashy.
It's giving Ryan Gosling in The Believer.
Right, Richard Spencer vibe.
That's exactly what it is.
Quick sidebar: do you make fun of your friends when they get that haircut?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Absolutely. I don't care if they're Jewish. I'm calling them out.
So I think, as far as stories of, self-made success through struggle, living on the outskirts, trying to push your way in, I think it's a very Jewish narrative arc. And I think you can read it as a Jewish parable.
I think that's a good take. I think it's on the roster of the Jewish Sandler movies. Sorry, the Sandler sports movies. It's not quite Happy Gilmore, but it's definitely a step above The Longest Yard. So it's somewhere in that meaty middle, above or below The Waterboy. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. But go check out Hustle, guys. I mean, it's definitely getting a lot of play.
Just for a second here. Do we, just to be consistent here, and I want Michael's take on this, is Bobby Boucher also canonically Jewish?
So I think no, but that's like, his name is Bobby Boucher. He's clearly a, Bayou Cajun.
Yeah,
right?
But
all the
boss
indicators of that are
is Bayou Cajun Henry Winkler.
No, Henry Winkler's playing a Jewish character. I think he's Coach Klein. He's absolutely
Coach Klein.
He's absolutely a Jewish character, but he's not supposed to be from the Bayou the way Bobby Boucher is.
Right. Or Jerry Reed, who plays the old coach.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be the one example of the default Adam Sandler not Jewish sports character.
I'm not an expert on this, but I am 3 seasons into my Treme watch, so I know about Louisiana culture now.
Are there any Jewish characters in Treme?
Oh, good question. There aren't, but the guy who plays Sonny,
Michael Heisman,
Heisman is Jewish.
It's definitely Jewish. I was going to ask if Sonny is then canonically Jewish because of Michael Heisman. I think it
hasn't come up yet. Maybe someday.
He is sort of like a struggling musician, which is like
we definitely have to cut this off before it gets too deep into Treme talk. Literally 0 people want to hear that. Anyways, why don't we throw it now to our interview with Larry Stone, where we talk Sue Bird with one Larry Stone. Larry, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what your career has been like?
Sure. I'm the sports columnist at the Seattle Times. I've been at the Seattle Times for 26 years, columnist for about 10. Before that, I was mostly a longtime baseball writer, beat writer for the San Francisco Giants for many years, and then covered the Seattle Mariners for quite a while. So now I cover the whole Seattle sports scene.
Right. And we wanted to have you on today to talk a little bit about the great Sue Bird, who recently announced that this will be her last season. The WNBA season's about almost halfway through, I think. So this is going to be her last season. And she has spent all of her career in Seattle. Her sort of legendary career there. You wrote a very nice column sort of sending her off and looking forward to seeing what's going to be next for Sue.
Yeah, this is her 21st year in Seattle. But I know, dating back to 2002 when she was the number 1 draft pick. She's only played 19 of those years because she sat out 2 years with injuries. But the span, and it's Seattle only. And, I did a book on Edgar Martinez, the Mariners Hall of Fame DH. And he's sort of the only comp to Sue Bird. He was 18-year career all in Seattle. All the other icons of Seattle all left. Griffey left. Gary Payton left. Russell Wilson just left. So her and Edgar are kind of the two who stayed. And
you could call it almost a Howard Schultz level of longevity.
Yeah, don't bring that name up here. Yeah,
that's why I wanted to ask you about Larry, because you said that Sue Bird should be on the Seattle Mount Rushmore, I think is how you put it in your column. Is there who else would you put on there necessarily? I mean, I guess Edgar would be one, maybe Russell Wilson, but it's hard to say because maybe people in Seattle feel like he left on not the best terms, or anytime someone leaves, it's not a great feeling.
Well, I discussed that with some colleagues, and I think the 4 that we came up with was Sue, Ken Griffey Jr. He's just he was an icon, even though he did left. He did come back also, and now he's in ownership with the Mariners. Gary Payton and Russell Wilson. I mean, those are the 4.
Right.
Edgar is beloved, but maybe he just a tiny rung below those guys as far as he didn't have that it factor that those other
So
players
speaking
did.
of that, that's a great sort of segue. Can you talk a little bit about Sue Bird's it factor and what makes her specifically, so notable in Seattle and to you and your contemporaries?
Yeah. She's just a real warm person. She's got a lot of charisma when she talks. She relates well to the fans. She's very well spoken. I think she's very relatable, and she hasn't had any missteps really in 21 years, and
Right.
So in the basketball community, particularly the women's basketball community, she's just beloved. And just throw on top of that she's been a great player for all those years. She's almost had two distinct careers. She won 2 titles. She's won 4 titles with the Seattle Storm, 2 with Lauren Jackson, who's been retired now for 8-9 years, and is actually making a comeback in Australia at age 41, same age as Sue. And then she's had this second run with Brianna Stewart. And
the championship a couple years ago. I think it was 2020, or was it 2021?
Yeah, the bubble year.
The bubble year, right? Very impressive. I mean, just to go over the bona fides a little bit. 12-time All-Star. She's the career leader in games played, the career leader in assists, the career leader in steals. Just one of those sort of like all-around longevity careers, and at this just very high level, winning 4 championships. I think 5 gold medals at the Olympics. We did a poll, Larry, a few months ago about we did a bracket about who's the greatest Jewish athlete of all time. She came in the semifinals. I think she lost to either Greenberg or Koufax. I can't remember which one, but I think there's a reverence for her in the Jewish community as someone who is maybe later in her career embraced that side of her, but become a pretty public Jewish figure in terms of athletics.
I'd be very disappointed if Sandy didn't win that.
Sandy did win, although
okay.
The Greenberg Koufax debate rages on.
Well, I grew up in LA in the '60s.
Yeah.
You're
an Angelino.
I'm an Angelino. I'm a Sandy guy to my heart. And as a matter of fact, next month I'm actually the president of the Baseball Writers Association of America, so I get to go to the Hall of Fame induction next month in July. And I've just had my fingers crossed. I get to actually stay in the hotel where the Hall of Famers stay, and I'm hoping that Sandy Koufax shows up and I'll get to maybe shake his hand or something.
Oh, that'd be great.
That's amazing.
If you Hall of Fame President Josh Rawitch is a former guest on the show.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod.
Nice.
Feel free to I think he said on the show that if you drop the podcast name, he would come out with a special baseball card, I think, at the Hall of Fame or something like that. Anyways, but you're there in a more official capacity. So that's great. Like, we'd be happy to chat a little bit about baseball as well. I guess you're a bit of an expert on designated hitters. Do you have high hopes for Rowdy Tellez out in Milwaukee? The next great Jewish hitter. He's really having a great year this year.
Well, I do have to say that I have interviewed the very first DH, Ron Blomberg, who is Jewish.
Of course.
And I've interviewed him many times, actually. Rowdy Tellez is great.
So to you, covering, as you mentioned, Blomberg and Koufax in the Hall of Fame and Sue Bird, what is your feeling upon finding out or learning or researching about an athlete being Jewish as a Jewish person and a long-term columnist and writer? What does it matter to you?
Well, I mean, it's an area of interest and kind of maybe makes me feel have a little bit of affinity with that player, follow their career maybe a little bit closer. In baseball, there's not many Jews in baseball. Ian Kinsler. Actually, lately there's been a run. I believe Max Scherzer,
Max Fried.
Max Fried.
Yeah,
not Scherzer. Yeah,
not Scherzer. Okay,
no.
Something we hear a lot, even from pro athletes we talk to who are Jewish, is even Jewish athletes care about finding out who else is Jewish.
Yeah, for sure. Bob Melvin, the manager of now the Padres, is Jewish, which I didn't know when I covered him as the manager of the Mariners, and didn't know he was Jewish, and found that out later on in his career, and it was
it's a missed opportunity. You guys could have had a nosh.
We could have. Darn it.
That's okay. Let's go back to Sue Bird again for a second. As we talked about, she's mentioned she's embracing some of the more Jewish parts of her personality. We were talking before the show, before the recording started, that she's sort of maintained being a proud New Yorker as well as an adopted, I guess, stone statue, Mount Rushmore part of Seattle. As do you think it's important for athletes to be so, what's the benefit of being so proud of your identity?
Well, I think it shows other young people that they could be proud of their identity too. And, and young Jewish boys and girls can have a role model to aspire to. Let's face it, athletics are not something you associate very strongly with Judaism. So if you've got a Sandy Koufax or a Sue Bird, then it's something that it shows that this could be an arena we can succeed in as well.
Do you feel that there's been a embrace at all, or an increase in the support for the Seattle Storm in the years since the Supersonics were sort of unfairly railroaded out of town? Or railroad's not the railroad. They made off like thieves in the night, I guess is probably the right way to put it. Has there been has there been more of an embrace of the WNBA team because of the need for basketball in the area? I think of the Pacific Northwest as being such a basketball hotspot traditionally. It
absolutely. I mean, you look at the prep high school sports scene. They churn out NBA players at an unbelievable rate. And there's going to be 3 players, and the draft is, as we speak, the day after tomorrow, and there's going to be 3 Seattle high schoolers who are going to be picked in the first round. So there was a void that was left when the Sonics left. Absolutely, I do think that the Storm was already embraced before that. I mean, they've been very popular. They have a very rabid fan base, and I do think that there's something to that premise that after they left, it became even stronger. And now they've moved into this is their first year in the brand new arena where that they built for the hockey team, the Kraken. Right. So that has actually helped their following this year, because everyone's going to see them play in this.
Quick question before you go. As the president of the BEWAA, what, people, I think a lot of our listeners, a lot of sports fans have heard sort of rumors about the magical gold card. What can you tell us maybe a little bit? What is the craziest game you've ever got into, or the biggest use of your card you've ever used?
Well, the gold card's only for retired members, so I don't have a gold card. I have an active card. I have an active card, and a working card, and I don't have it. I mean, I just use it for games that I cover. Nothing crazy. I mean, I've covered tremendous games. I was there when Joe Carter hit his World Series winning home run for the Blue Jays. I was there when Kirk Gibson hit his home run, famous one off Dennis Eckersley. I've covered like 20 World Series, so I've used my card very copiously. But the gold card is what you get when you retire, and if you've put in 10 years, you're a lifetime member, and you get that gold card. And I'm getting up there in years, so I might be asking for mine in the next couple of years.
Well, that's great.
This might not be the year that the Mariners break their playoff missing out streak. I don't know what to call it, but maybe there's another World Series in the future for them at some point.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at Sue Bird's career before we got on, and just to double check the year she started. She started in 2002, which means she's played her entire career in Seattle and never had a Seattle Mariners playoff team.
And that's
coincide with her career, because the Mariners' last playoff year was 2001. So her entire career has been played with the Mariners not in the playoffs.
Wow. We're both big Blue Jays fans, so we lived through a long playoff list streak from 93 to 2015. So that was 22 years. That'll be next year for the Mariners. So hopefully next year they make it back. I think that the NL West is looking pretty hot these days. Yeah. Relatively speaking, so it's gonna be tough to back.
Definitely. There's been this incredible phenomenon, I'd say the last 5 years, where when the Blue Jays come to town, they fill up the stadium with Blue Jays fans. I mean, fill it up.
Right.
It's become a real source of contention here, because it's like a home game for the Blue Jays. They come from Vancouver. I assume some come from Toronto itself. But
it's an interesting phenomenon, because not to get too in the weeds here, but the Jays have become more of a national team over the last little while because of the way the regional sports network sort of works. So that I think if you're living in Vancouver or Alberta, anywhere in Western Canada now, it's easy to watch Jays games all year long. And it means there's more fans out west, where once upon a time, there were always some, but you were more likely to get a Mariners game or a Rockies game on TV. So, we're going to keep flooding over the border to fill up the arena for the Mariners and fill up the stadium for the Mariners and cheer for the Jays. Anyways, let's end it there. Larry, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
And please check out Larry's column about Sue Bird on the SeattleTimes.com. Well, thanks again to Larry for joining us. And good luck. Best wishes to Sue Bird as she plays the last set of games in her career and playoffs, probably. I think the Storm going to make the playoffs this year in all likelihood. So, we wish her well. Maybe she'll have a 5th championship to add to her roster.
It would be amazing to go out on top like that. That would be quite the way to do it, especially as Larry mentioned, the team is likely to break up, or as we talked about, it could be the end of the team. It would be really, really excellent to see her go out on top one last time.
Yeah. We should mention that we were invited on Twitter to join a charity golf tournament down in the Catskills. Unfortunately, we can't make it, but we are available if anyone wants us to participate in any events they have in the Jewish community.
Celebrity pro-ams, really, we are quite sort of, we're quite enjoyable people to spend time with or host your event. Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and any synagogue function you may have. Have you ever?
That's true. We are emceeing a wedding
as the Benchwarmers. It's
in characters and the Benchwarmers 9 months from now.
When was the last time you were on a synagogue bima?
I guess when I was bar mitzvahed or when I got married.
No, your wedding.
The wedding wasn't. Yeah.
Once in my teenage years, I read from the Torah on Yom Kippur. I was brought back for that. But I think that's the last time I've spoken with any position of authority at a religious institution.
Mm-hmm. Good for you. Well, if anyone's interested in having us over, please email our producer, Michael. You can reach him at mfrayman, that's MFRAIMAN, at thecjn.ca. As always, you can find our work on the Canadian Jewish News website, thecjn.ca, and follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers for all the most recent updates about Jews and sports.
We hope you guys have a wonderful fortnight, and we'll speak to you later in the summer.